So let me bring in Mr. Bharat Kumar Raut, well-known political analyst and journalist, joining me here on the broadcast. Good afternoon, Mr. Raut. So we have the names now, and at this point in time, the big talking point has been, of course, of Amit Shah getting the home portfolio. There were strong indications of that. You were also speaking to us, telling us that there's high chances of him getting home. What are your thoughts on the top three portfolios, home, defense, and finance?
Yeah. These are the major portfolios in the Indian Council of Ministers, and they are gone on expected lines, at least on my expected lines. I was sure that Amit Shah would get the home portfolio and Nirmala would get finance. However, I was not very sure about who goes to other portfolios. And now Amit Shah is home, so definitely he will hold a major role in the cabinet and in the government. He being the trusted colleague, the most trusted colleague of the Prime Minister, he deserves that type of position. Rajnath Singh, another senior figure in the cabinet, has got the important portfolio of defense. So I think it is on expected lines, and this will further strengthen Modi's governance.
Absolutely. But in terms of the balancing act, Mr. Raut, that we were also talking about earlier, getting the caste considerations accommodated, getting youth and experience balance, the Prime Minister himself talks about the fact that he has maintained a very good balance in terms of getting youth and the administrative experience in order. Do you agree with that view?
Yes, if you look at the whole sequence in order, then you will realize that yes, it is on expected line. He has also tried to maintain the balance, which is a very crucial thing as far as possible. So, like Arjun Kunda has been given the tribal welfare portfolio, and Nirmala gets finance. Nirmala has been given the very important portfolio. That was Smriti Irani, one who is the
भाग्य है कि मैं बिहार में एनिमल हस्बेंड्री, फिशरी, डेयरी का काम संभाल चुका हूँ एक राज्य में, तो हो सकता है आगे भी मुझे ये करने में अच्छा लगे।
आपको लग रहा है कि चूंकि प्रधानमंत्री ने देखा होगा कि आपकी इसमें एक्सपर्टीज है, इसीलिए आपको सौंपा गया है बेहतर काम करने के लिए?
ये तो प्रधानमंत्री बता सकते हैं, मैं इसमें क्या बताऊं।
डेयरी है।
Aarti Subramaniam joining us from the Mumbai newsroom. So Aarti, we are sharing the final names with our viewers at this point, and we are also talking about the big talking points here. If you can highlight for us the major takeaways. We were just having Mr. Bharat Kumar Raut there telling us that the Prime Minister's trusted colleagues have been given the plum positions.
Right, absolutely. Frida, I'm just going to take you to some of the other names. Now, we have, of course, discussed Rajnath Singh is going to be the new Defence Minister, Amit Shah, Home Affairs, Nitin Gadkari, Transport and Highways. But a few more names over there that we perhaps weren't expecting. Now, for instance, Anurag Thakur is the MOS Ministry of Finance and the MOS Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Interestingly, Hardeep Singh Puri is now going to be Minister of State Independent Charge, not just Housing and Urban Affairs as he previously held, but also he is going to be the Minister of State Independent Charge of the Ministry of Civil Aviation. There are a few. Now, Kiren Rijju, interestingly, is now the Minister of State Independent Charge of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, and also the Ministry of MOS Minority Affairs. Jitendra Singh continuing in the Prime Minister's office, but there are a few other names. Now, interestingly, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi is going to continue as the Minister of Minority Affairs. We do have Smriti Irani, as Meenakshi was telling us, who's going to be the Minister of Women and Child Development. Mr. Jaishankar making that big jump from Foreign Secretary to the Minister of External Affairs. Now, a lot of people were expecting that General V.K. Singh might perhaps get MOS Defence or MOS External Affairs, but that's not the case. General V.K. Singh is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, so he is going to be serving under Nitin Gadkari. So there are quite a few interesting picks here when it comes to the Ministers of State and the Minister of State with independent charge, their particular portfolio distribution. There are plus a few interesting picks. Now, Babul Supriyo, for instance, is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So I am going to just go through this list, Afrida, and come back to you in just a bit. But there is an interesting shuffle when it comes to at least the serving MOSs. There's been a bit of a rejig in that department, whereas the big four are along expected lines.
Yes, the big four are along expected lines, and several important takeaways. And Aarti, you know, it is, of course, a tough balancing act. Can we talk a little bit about how the important factors, important considerations have been taken in when it comes to giving those who have performed very well, right up to rewarding those who have been the giant killers in this election?
Right now, yesterday we were bringing to our viewers that there are 9 ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Union Cabinet. Of course, given the fact that Uttar Pradesh has reaped the BJP such dividends, and also it's the largest state in terms of the number of MPs it brings in, unsurprisingly, that has been given a lot of weightage. Now, the other consideration, of course, is, remember, Maharashtra is going to polls, so there are the second largest number of ministers in that particular department. But by and large, of course, there was a lot of talk yesterday of Amit Shah going to finance, or Amit Shah getting, you know, there was no doubt that it would be a plum posting, but now there is, of course, a confirmation that Amit Shah is going to be the next Home Minister of India, Rajnath Singh is the next Defence Minister of India, and Smriti Irani, now, of course, she is the giant killer in that sense. She defeated Rahul Gandhi in Amethi, but she's been given the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Maneka Gandhi, she's actually taking Maneka Gandhi's post because Maneka Gandhi has not made it into the cabinet. So, quite a few big names here. Ram Vilas Paswan has retained consumer affairs. As far as the allies are concerned, whether it's Harsimrat Kaur Badal, Minister of Food Processing Industries. So, as far as the allies are concerned, there is no big shake-up in the ministries that they were allotted to them. Arvind Sawant, now the Shiv Sena minister, is going to be the Minister of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprise. So, very interesting list as far as the ministers are concerned. No big real surprises, but a bit of a rejig in the ministers of state with independent charge and the MOS.
Right. Let me bring in Mirna's consulting editor, Vinay Tiwari, with us on the phone line. Vinay, Aarti was also focusing on the fact that two big takeaways at this point seems to be Amit Shah getting the home portfolio and the two other plum positions, defense and finance. A little bit of a rejig there with Rajnath Singh getting defense and Nirmala Sitharaman getting finance. Your thoughts on that, please? Vinay, if you can share your perspective on the little rejig that has happened in the two important portfolios. Mr. Badshah Shah is with us. Mr. Badshah Sen, I beg your pardon, is with us on the phone line. Mr. Sen, good afternoon. I want your thoughts on the names that have been announced so far and the big takeaways. If you've had a chance to go through the list, of course, it's just been a few minutes, but share with us your thoughts on the important portfolios of home, defense and finance.
Yesterday, when the new cabinet ministers were sworn in, and post that we had a discussion on who were likely to get what, some of us were of the view that Amit Shah would be getting finance, because that is a very, very important portfolio, particularly if we are talking about Modi 2.0 going in full pelt towards, the economy and growth and so on and so forth. But it's now evident that that the economy will probably still be run very directly by Modi, with no doubt with Nirmala Sitharaman nominally in charge. So therefore, it seems that Mr. Modi has decided to give home greater importance than he would want to give finance for the moment. And, and since there is only a limited number of things that Mr. Modi as Prime Minister can do, particularly since he is getting on in life, he's probably he's brought Amit Shah in must be for a particular purpose. I would imagine that particular purpose would be to pursue various, various, malfeasances that may have gone on. And basically, there are state governments, and I hate to say this, There are state governments which are being run at the moment.
All right.
by
Badsha
non-BJP
Sen, please stay on with us. I would like to hand over the mantle to Mirna Executive Editor, Faye D'Souza. Faye, over to you to carry on the conversation forward, please.
All right. It's extremely interesting, this list. Badsha Sen was on the phone line with us. Mr. Sen, I'm just looking at the list. Ministry of Defense to Rajnath Singh, but finance to Ms. Sitharaman along with corporate affairs. Now, in fact, from our conversation yesterday, finance is going to have its work cut out for it going into the next term. So will agriculture and farmer welfare, which has been handed over to Mr. Narendra Singh Tomar. Do you believe that's an interesting choice, Narendra Singh Tomar for agriculture?
Yes, it is. I still am not clear whether rural development is with agriculture because there is some confusion. As I pointed out yesterday, rural development has got a humongous budget. Number one. Number two, it has all the schemes which are dear to Mr. Narendra Modi and which are likely to get him a lot of benefit in the rural areas. So, if rural development is part of agriculture, then Narendra Singh Tomar has his work cut out from him. I really don't know his track record on the kind of work he does. Presumably, he'll be taking a lot of cue from Mr. Narendra Modi. However, defense, I would imagine, while it's extremely important, particularly in the light of Balakot and so on, it tends to be a junior, somewhat lower ministry than, let's say, Home, which is Home was what Rajnath Singh occupied. And by dint of occupying Home, he was more or less the number 2 person in the cabinet. But now defense seems to have, unless these are all very informal classifications, but in the traditional sense of the word, defense is less important than Home, defense is less important than finance. So I do not know how Rajnath Singh is going to take that. Yes, finance is going to be very, very important. We discussed it yesterday. It's going to be the driving force for, I presume, for Modi 2.0, because obviously joblessness, lack of investment, slow growth, all these need to be addressed urgently. Again, by putting Nirmala Sitharaman there, I would imagine that Mr. Modi would be taking more than a passing interest in that ministry. That leaves us with Home, and Home has been given to Modi's most trusted lieutenant, someone he's worked with for many years. Now that is very interesting. That means Home is going to be very, very proactive in the years to come or months to come, and I presume that will include non-BJP states which are tottering here and there. For instance, there are a lot of talk about law and order problems in West Bengal and such like. So I think that there's going to be a Home offensive, perhaps against some of the opposition-run states.
Well, I just want to bring Vinay in as well. Vinay, the Prime Minister's own portfolio here, personnel, public grievances, pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, Space, all important possible policy issues and all other portfolios not allocated to any other minister. Do you see anything out of the ordinary in this list?
No, absolutely not. Most prime ministers have retained exactly the same portfolios. But look, when prime ministers announce the names of people who will be part of the cabinet, it tells you the prime minister's political mind. And when they allocate the portfolios, it tells you the prime minister's administrative mind. And today's allocation of portfolios makes it absolutely clear what Mr. Modi's administrative mind is going to be in the next 5 years. For me, I have absolutely no doubts about why he has gone in for what he had. Mr.
Absolutely, and Vinay, obviously, we just heard Mr. Sen also tell us his opinion about the shuffling of portfolios from Rajnath Singh. He now is looking after defense, Amit Shah looking after home affairs, and Nirmala Sitharaman finance. Interestingly, Nitin Gadkari retains his. He's been given, the SME ministry as well, but largely in the same position. So he hasn't received any sort of promotion.
Sorry, was that a question to me, Faye?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yes, so I was just completing my earlier point, if I can. Mr. Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh was never a person Mr. Modi fully trusted. And I guess we need to understand that Mr. Rajnath Singh was a very senior BJP leader, comes from Uttar Pradesh, has been a former chief minister. And even though by his seniority he occupied the home ministry, he was never fully trusted. And that lack of trust between the two was very evident in the way the previous home ministry has handled, say, the matters of Kashmir, when the government withdrew support to the PDP government, and Mr. Rajnath Singh was not even aware of it. And that is why it's very clear that the Prime Minister's office doesn't want to invest too much time in home, because now they put Mr. Amit Shah there. It's very clear that with Mr. Jaishankar being part of the foreign ministry, who's a very strong domain expert in that field, the Prime Minister will perhaps spend less time even on the foreign ministry. And I think I agree with Badshah that now that you have the duo of Nirmala Sitharaman and Anurag Thakur in the finance ministry, it clearly means it's going to be the Prime Minister's office which will run the finance ministry to a large extent, because both are untested commodities in terms of finance at least, and both are people who we don't exactly know their track record on issues related to finance and company affairs. But it's very obvious they're deliverers. They are the people who are going to follow instructions that are given to them. And the Prime Minister's office is clearly going to look at finance and economy directly, much more than they did in the first innings, Faye.
Very interesting. I also want to bring in Mr. Bharat Kumar Rao, who's with us. Mr. Rao, are you pleasantly surprised by the list? Is this what you were expecting? Anything stand out for you in the list of allocations?
No, I'm not at all surprised. This was on the expected line, except the fact that Nirmala Sitharaman gets the finance. Actually, if you look at her history, earlier she had handled company affairs, so she comes from economic background. So if it is given to her, that is, I think, very much fitting her profile. So that is perfectly all right. Now, question is, she was given defense. She was given defense at a very crucial time in the Rafale controversy was on board. So she handled that, and now she has been relieved from that, and which is a fine gesture by Modi and Rajnath Singh, who is not really very trusted man of Prime Minister Modi. He has been given another defense portfolio. That is also good, because he is a very able person. As a defense minister, you need to travel a lot in hilly areas, in snow areas, in among trees, so that he can handle, and he can definitely encourage the armed forces. So that is also good. Amit Shah, it was as expected. He has got home, and last time Kashmir was removed out of Home Ministry. Now I think Amit Shah is there. He is very closest colleague, I would say, of Narendra Modi, right from Modi's Gujarat days. So Amit Shah will be given the fullest authority. I'm also a bit surprised by Piyush Goyal. Piyush Goyal had definitely handled the railways very well. However, I thought he would get a bigger responsibility that he has not got. So this is all. Yeah.
Yes, Prakash Javadekar will have information and broadcasting to the INB minister now. Prakash Javadekar, Vinay, your reaction to that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Look, Mr. Javadekar is a very amiable man, and he's enjoys good. Frankly speaking, I would have thought that knowing Mr. Modi, he would have chosen somebody who doesn't really have a very amiable relations with the media, but he does. Mr. Javadekar has good equations with most journalists, and he understands this side of the industry as well. So it's a good choice. One other thing, I think, frankly, I'm not very surprised by Piyush Goyal being the railway minister, because remember, railways is a very critical ministry, and commerce. And commerce has been a bit of a problem for us in the first tenure. We've not really managed to crack the code in a lot of issues, including exports and so on and so forth. You also asked Badshah the other question about Narendra Singh Tomar. Narendra Singh Tomar is a very, very close confidant of the Modi-Shah duo. I mean, if you remember the day when the first Central Hall meeting happened, he was the one conducting the ceremony that day. He's very close. He's trusted by them. He's got a lot of administrative experience. Comes from Morena, which is part of the Bundelkhand belt, the Chambal belt. But is seasoned. He understands politics, has been the state president for BJP in Madhya Pradesh, and has had administrative experience as well. And the other confusion that Badshah was talking about, that is now cleared up. They have, in fact, included 3 ministries into one. So rural development, Panchayati Raj, and rural affairs will be the same person. So it will be the three ministries with Narendra Singh Tomar making him quite important in terms of the scale of operations that he will command, Faith.
Yes, a couple of interesting notes as well. Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, now Minister of Jal Shakti. Kiren Rijju Singh has animal husbandry, dairy and fisheries. We also have, interestingly, Mumtaz Abbas not been promoted. He remains minority affairs. Members in the cabinet, their portfolios have remained largely consistent. Mr. Sen, would you have expected Dharmendra Pradhan to have received some sort of promotion?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, there are several ministers whose portfolios remain largely they've not received promotions. For example, Mumtaz Abbas Naqvi, Dharmendra Pradhan, Piyush Goyal, and of course Nitin Gadkari. Is that again something you were expecting?
Yeah, well, you see, this question of promotion and demotion is a fairly relative question. I mean, let us say if we take home, generally it tends to be of a higher in the public perception and in the government protocol than, let's say, defense. Which is why I told you that I felt that this was a slight downgrade for Rajnath Singh. But as far as Piyush Goyal is concerned, as of now, he is young enough and he's been tasked with, I think, one of the most important ministries, as Vinay had pointed out earlier. The railway ministry goes through all the parts of India, but is run centrally by the government of India. The state governments have precious little to do with it. So this is something that Piyush Goyal's got. The kind of responsibility that he's got is neither a promotion. I don't regard this as an issue which should be either promotion or demotion. I'd like to point out that Nirmala Sitharaman seems to have kept consistently to a track record insofar as, barring Indira Gandhi, she's the only woman finance minister I think we have had. You know, just as she was the only defense minister apart from Indira Gandhi that we have had. So Nirmala Sitharaman seems to be riding pretty high, although I guess she will be supervised quite a bit by the Prime Minister. Finally, Nitin Gadkari. Now, I am still a bit confused, but if Nitin Gadkari is still in charge of water resources, a very little-known thing that took place some time ago, Gadkari announced the linking of the rivers between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu and announced that this is going to solve the water issue in both states. Now, if he's done that, or if he succeeds in doing that, I'm sorry, he's just started, he's planning to finish it in the next 4 or 5 years. That's going to be a major issue in the south. You know, something which we are all ignoring at the moment because it appears to be unobtrusive and underground, let's put it that way. So I think that Gadkari has been put there for a purpose, and that purpose is to go and sort out this problem so that BJP, which has already got made headway in Karnataka, will now move towards Tamil Nadu. You know.
All right, we're going to have to take a very quick break now, but we'll stay with the news and updates here on Don't Go Away. Quick break.